to his homeland before the Iron Curtain, was still up. Returned to his family's homeland, where members of his family you can't just say these words without taking like a pause. But more than 86 members of his family were murdered in Poland, and as a young American Jewish kid, he went back to Poland, which everybody thought, I know, that it was an odd thing to do, because everybody would not, the community was sort of resolute in never going back to these killing fields. So Harley, through that experience, has been very engaged in the Jewish community and issues of anti-Semitism, and he's involved with us for a while, and then took over the leadership for 2 years. So it's really an honor that Harley came here, especially from New York, to be with us, and he would like to, and I'm honored that he would like to say a few words today.
Mostly, I really want to thank you all for being here. I mean, I was not here in the first week, but I heard a lot about it, and you took out 2 weeks of your life to be here. We appreciate your focus, your dedication. You have a big job ahead of you going back. We have many storm clouds over the horizon. As you've heard many times, and it's worth repeating, anti-Semitism starts with the Jews but never ends with the Jews. So I think we have a kind of world and global responsibility that speaks to fighting the biggest scourge, which is intolerance. And that's what this is all about. A number of people have asked me why I do this or why I'm involved. And I usually, I don't do it here that much, it's a serious group, but I usually use a lot of jokes and humor, and I tell people I'm so flawed that if there's a heaven and I'm in line, I need a couple of good things to say so I'm going to be received well. But I make jokes out of that. But where it all really began was, as Charles gave you a little preview, was from Poland, where my grandmother fled when the pogroms were taking place on the border of Poland, Ukraine. And it was her stories to me that really affected me so deeply and made me passionate about supporting the American-Israel relationship and trying to make the world a better place for everyone. My grandmother lived in a shtetl, very typical story for that era. And there were already 2 pogroms in her village. And a pogrom, it's just a word, but I try to give people a sense of the horrors. It's babies thrown out the window, the mother's raped, the grandmother's raped, the children raped all in front of each other. Unspeakable horrors that take place. And so on the second pogrom, she told me how she was a very young girl and fled into the house of her best friend, who happened to be not Jewish. A lot of people have this idea in a shtetl that all Jews live together. In a shtetl, it could be mixed. Jews live in a group, but there are non-Jews in the shtetl. So her very good friend was not Jewish, and she fled into the house. And she got in one bed, and her girlfriend got in the other bed. And 2 Russian Cossacks came into the house, and one of them sat down on the bed where my grandmother was in and started to take off his boots. At that point, the mother of my grandmother's friend started to get hysterical and was saying that these girls were really 9. I think at the time they were maybe 13. They're only 9 years old, and was crying and showed, I think, the icon of the Russian Orthodox Church. So and they were both drunk. So the other soldier went to the soldier that was on the bed of my grandmother, hit him with his hand, and said, "Okay, let's just go," and they left. So my grandmother's mother, who I'm named after, said, "If this happens again, you run. You run to America, and you don't stop." And that's what she did. So there was a third one. And when that happened, she had little things put out in the woods. She was at that time 13, and she had to make her way to the United States, which she did alone in the woods. She didn't have a flashlight. There's no cell phones. You're a young girl, a young attractive girl. It's a very dangerous place for a lot of reasons. And her journey, making it to the United States, and she told me, the stories time and time again about what it was like to experience these pogroms, and it just stays with me. So that's probably the biggest motivation is hearing how just because you're different, in this case just because you're Jewish, you had to experience these horrible, life-threatening things. And so this is what I think, I don't know why I always seem to get emotional every time I say it, even though I've said this so many times, the story. So, even though I grew up with good parents, she kind of brought us up, and I always heard these stories. In any event, as Charles says, to just complete the circle, my field of interest was U.S.-Soviet relations. This was during the time of the Cold War. You couldn't study. I was a political science student and a history major as well. You couldn't study political science in the communist world. So I ended up getting on a Fulbright program in Poland for 2 years. It was the next best thing to go into the Soviet Union. So I go there, and my grandmother, who was still alive at the time, was hysterical again, calling the rabbi to tell me, don't go back there. You're crazy. Jews leave that country, they don't go back. And I would probably be murdered and be killed. When you're so young there, when you're a teenager, that's why they make good soldiers when you're a teenager. You think you're invincible. I wore a Jewish star. I was crazy. You're fearless at that age. But that's when I began to personally experience a strange form of anti-Semitism, where one example is I had two friends at Warsaw University. So my first year was at Wrocław, University of Warsaw. It's called Wrocław in English. And then the second year was in Warsaw, and I learned Polish. Second year I had to take all the tests and exams in Polish and everything. First year they let me write my papers in English. They were very kind to me. So anyway, I have two friends at university, kind, thoughtful, sensitive people. And they said to me that there's somewhat the remnants of a shtetl, and there are some Jewish families there. And they said, why don't you, and they heard about you. It was very, I was, Jewish. I was on television right away because it was just unusual. It was first American to study political science in a communist country since the war. So you get attention, and in any event, they took me there, and I had gifts. This is the time of the student struggle of the Soviet Jewry, so I had a mezuzah, a Jewish star, things like that. I just had a few gifts. Anyway, I see them, and it's very emotional, as you can imagine. Hugging, kissing, crying. I don't know them, never met them before. They never met me before. They invited me to stay in their home. And, they had money from the Warsaw Ghetto. They wanted to give me something. They didn't have anything. Why I'm telling you this story is, at the end of it, my two friends, who I really like a lot, again, really great guys, look at me, and these were top students. I remember they were very smart in my class. University of Warsaw told me, and they said, see, Harley, there really is an international Jewish Zionist conspiracy. And I said, what are you talking about? And they said, think about it. We're Polish. If we went to the United States, nobody would ever, just because we're Polish, just invite us into their home, hug us and kiss us, give us gifts, let us stay in their home. It would never happen. So how else do you explain it? And here, I remember for me, it was a crystallizing moment where at once I understand the evil nature of anti-Semitism personally, because they saw an emotional and intellectual affinity for a people to each other. They saw it in a sinister way. So that was the other experience and the catalyst. So with that said, I just thought I'd share a little bit with you all, a little bit, since I was asked by a number of people to tell them what made me involved. And so that was a catalyst that makes me do the things I try to do. And people say, what do you do? I tell them, try to make the world a better place and have fun at the same time. That's my answer. That's what I do. How I make money is I own a technology company, and I try to do everything I can to just give back. That's kind of my thing now. So with that, I want to also thank the professor. I know I had at the end, that's my last thing I'll say. I had a little bit of an emotional reaction with his talk, and I think he gave a great and brilliant overview of what goes on in Poland. It was, just to explain that, there was a last statement by someone, if you remember, yesterday, who was an expert on Jews in Poland, who made statements, and to me it was, I don't know how you could be more offended than that, but they were blaming the victims. And so I think it's important that it was very it really hit a chord in me when I heard that. So that's why I think we have to refute those things. In any event, I want to thank Ira. Ira is really the unsung hero here. In every organization, there are people you don't see but do all the hard, dirty work, the administrative work, in addition to Charles, of course, who's the chief bottle washer and everything else in the organization. Ira is the right hand and the left hand as well, and really just worked really hard to pull this together, and we'll never see all the things he had to take care of, so he really did a great job, so thank you very much, Ira. I also want to thank Charles, who really did pull this all as his brainchild. I want to thank Charles for everything he's done. And lastly, I want to just introduce, I think you've all met him before, but David's on the board, and he's going to discuss an element of what we need to do to survive. So, the floor is yours.
So David Presky. David is originally from Toronto, lives in Miami. I actually met him in Miami. We became Talmud study partners for a couple of years ago. We learned with Akiva we met. So David is a good friend, and David has literally, I'm not exaggerating, he's kept the doors of ISGAP open. We're a small organization. We live kind of, hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck. And if it wasn't for this guy, we would have been closed a long time ago. And he takes this very seriously. And I'll just tell you, I think I've said it earlier, that he's experienced, his children have experienced these issues of anti-Semitism on the campus. And he's highly motivated. He's a business genius. I never understood how, if in philosophy you search for the truth, my brain kind of works that way, but he kind of sees the truth in business and numbers, so it's fascinating to listen to him. And it's through his genius of business and his real dedication to ISGAP and to the Jewish community and to social justice that we're here. So David.
Thank you, Charles.
I really thank you for being
here. So I just have a few brief words to say, and I'm going to ask you guys for something, okay? So my responsibility within ISGAP is to help the organization vis-a-vis its funding. Our cost of holding just this event alone in terms of a cash cost out of pocket is about $7,000 cash per professor. And that excludes any overhead costs or the cost of supporting our organization as a whole. Many of the people that work here, including Harley and myself, work here on a pro bono basis. So my one single request, I know better than to ask a crowd directly in the first meeting for money, and I'm not asking the professors to give money because I know that they have, for the most part, tight budgets. But if you could send an email just with one idea in terms of fundraising, whether it's a contact or a foundation that we should be contacting or a government grant that we should be applying for, and email that to Ira or Charles, or they can give you my email address and send that to me. I will follow up with that individual. And we have over 40 people in this room. We'll get at least 10 good ideas. And we have to pay for this event. We want to expand the event next year. And there's a lot which you can do to build on what we already have, the successes that we've had. But in order to do that, we need funding. So any ideas, if each of you could just send one idea, that's all I have asked for. And we will follow up with that contact or with you to see what we can do. And we really appreciate that. So thank you for coming, and let's pass the wand here.
Thank you. Yeah. So, Mala.
I'll be just a minute.
Okay, so first of all, I wanted to put on a suit because a member of the Knesset was here, but I've been running from meeting to meeting to meeting, and I haven't been able to get back to my room. So I apologize for the informality, although it's a little bit Israeli style. It's not Oxford style. So I'm very honored that Dr. Neguise is here, and I'm honored to introduce Mala Tabori, who will introduce the member of the Knesset. Mala is the director of ISGAP in Israel. She studied in Barnard College. She also has a whole history that I won't get into of fleeing and leaving Europe, going to the United States to study, and then making Aliyah, moving to Israel, and working her way up. And she's a legal scholar, a leading international legal scholar. She worked for the Israeli government, taught at Tel Aviv University. She's the editor of a prominent legal journal now, an international legal journal. She worked, I won't go into all the details, maybe you can say something, but she worked for many, many years, literally saving the lives of Jewish people, going behind the Iron Curtain, going into the former Soviet Union, working with people who are dedicated to looking out for communities and the diaspora that are in danger. In the 1960s and 70s and 80s, there were groups of communities, as we know, that were in danger. And Mala, I don't use the word lightly, is really a hero. She's a small woman, but tough, and went to places and did things that are amazing. And that was in the past, and there's a lot of success in saving Jewish communities and bringing them to Israel and allowing them to immigrate to other countries as well. And now there's other communities we know that are facing challenges. So this is Mala's work has been amazing, and the issues that we face now as a community of scholars committed to these issues, the issues that we confront are also challenging. So it's an honor that Mala's here this evening to introduce our speaker.
Thank you so much, Charles. I am humbled and honored to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Avraham Neguise, and we appreciate that you came all the way here for 26 hours to honor us with this address. Dr. Neguise came from Gondar, Ethiopia to Israel in 1985. He holds a PhD in education from Sussex University here in England. He holds a BA and an MA in social work from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and an MA in entrepreneurship and innovation from Swinburne University of Technology in Melbourne, Australia. And he did an LLB in Sharei Mishpat in Israel, and also, I heard on the plane, a degree in a course in mediation, which is very useful in turbulent Israel. He served as the Director General of the South Wing to Zion, an association which promotes the immigration of absorption of Ethiopian Jews, something that he continues to do to this day, and we'll talk to you about. Dr. Neguise was elected to the 20th Knesset on behalf of the Likud. Benjamin Netanyahu asked him to join the party. He chairs the Committee on Education, Absorption, and Diaspora, which has come to be a very important committee that is at the forefront of all the issues facing Israel and the Jewish people. He also serves on other important committees, the House Committee, the State Committee, the Labor, Welfare, and Health Committee, the Committee on the Status of the Elderly, and the Subcommittee for the Care of Homeless Youngsters. The Knesset also functions on the public diplomacy level through lobbies, and Dr. Neguise chairs the U.S.-Israel Relations Lobby, the lobby for relations between Israel and Africa, the lobby for improving the Knesset status, and the lobby for the advancement of youth. He is the member of other lobbies in various fields, including the lobby for the struggle against the delegitimization of the State of Israel and to fight reform in public administration. Dr. Neguise heads the Israel-Ethiopia, Israel-Ghana, Israel-Ivory Coast, and Israel-Rwanda parliamentary friendship groups, which are very important. From a personal point of view, I can tell you, as one who has worked with various heads of this important committee in the Knesset, each one brings to the chairmanship his own beliefs, his own priorities, and also has to face the whole gamut of issues that are facing Israel and the diaspora as it absorbs. Dr. Neguise has the wisdom and the parliamentary skill and grace to tackle all these issues that are at the forefront of Israel's relations with the diaspora and the world, including the Western Wall, recognition of conversions, and the committee serves as a platform for a great variety of organizations and issues. I hope, Dr. Neguise, that during or after your talk you will have a chance to share with this, with our participants some of your personal stories, some of your parliamentary experience, and we wish you continued success in your amazing career. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for introduction, and thank you for the invitation. And I'm very happy to be back again here this year. And thank you especially Dr. Small, Director of ISGAP, for this kind invitation to be part of your important conference. On behalf of the government of Israel, we thank you for all of your efforts in combating anti-Semitism. Looking at you, I am filled with optimism. It is truly remarkable to see so many of you, leaders, teachers, and academics from all around the world, devoting your time and energy to studying this topic of anti-Semitism in depth. The reason why I came to join you from Israel is because you all have the ability to influence thousands of people and students. You can impact the impression of so many individuals when it comes to Israel and the Jewish people. And so I have come from Israel to thank you for your support in spreading the truth about our state and our people. I am a member of Israeli 20th Knesset and also chairman of Immigration, Absorption, and Diaspora Affairs Committee. It is our Knesset committee which deals with the issue of anti-Semitism. First, what I'm going to tell you is no surprise. we are living in a very difficult time where we face severe anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism today is sophisticated. It appears itself in so many different areas and ways. It hides itself in the BDS movement and the delegitimization of the State of Israel. It appears at the United Nations, where Israel is subjected to incredible and severe attack. Of course, one of the places it is most found on social media and on the university campuses. I believe anti-Semitism is a threat to the State of Israel and the Jewish people. I completely agree with the opinion of Dr. Small, who said that there are clear connections between terror organizations and organizations that support anti-Semitism and the delegitimization of Israel on campuses. And so, the next generation is being infiltrated with hate against Israel, which directly impacts terrorism that we face. It might start with Israel, but then goes on to affect the entire world. This is an issue that we must take seriously and prioritize on our agenda. In our Knesset committee, we often have experts from around the world who express challenges of anti-Semitism they face and share data they have collected. Let me share with you some of the discussions that we have encountered. We have heard testimony that 33% of Jews around the world and 51% of Jews in Europe don't feel comfortable wearing display of their Judaism. In other words, every other Jew in Europe does not feel comfortable wearing a Star of David, a kippah, or putting mezuzah on the door of their home. Many believe that this is only intensifying with the strengthening of right-wing parties in Europe. We have hosted a member of the French Parliament who said that although French law forbids boycotts, there are still boycotts of Israeli companies. The French government does not lift a finger to prevent it. There is a concept of Judophobia, which is based on the demonization of Israel. 150 million Europeans today believe that Israel is an apartheid state and operates under Nazi methods. Shortly, I will share with you more thought about apartheid. Even in the United Nations, boycotts on campus against Israel and incidents of anti-Semitism are on the rise each year. Resistance to Israel is becoming more and more found. 75% of Jewish students in America have experienced anti-Semitism attacks. 1 in 10 Jews in America does not feel secure in their place of residence, and 1 in 4 Jews in Europe does not feel safe in their place of residence. One of the places that anti-Semitism is most effective is online and in social media. In our survey, 80% of the respondents worldwide have been exposed to content of anti-Jewish incitement online. Each year, there are over 20 million over 20,000 incidents reported online of various social media outlets. However, what is important to note is that the statistics we have quoted are only counted when they are official and formal complaints. We recently found out that 74% of Jews who were hurt by violent anti-Semitic incidents did not even report it. Jews around the world hide the fact that they are under attack. This just deepens the issue and makes it more severe. As I mentioned before, the United Nations is another battlefield in which the State of Israel and the Jewish people are constantly victims of anti-Semitism. When UNESCO adopted a resolution denying Jewish history on Temple Mount and denying the nearly 4,000 years history of the Cave of the Patriarchs, that was anti-Semitism rearing its ugly head. This is a campaign to deny the history of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. A campaign whose final purpose is the elimination of the Jewish state. Everyone, including those who voted in favor of the resolution, knows that there are no historic or scientific grounds to the Palestinian claims that they have a historic connection to the site. But unfortunately, we all know that facts are the least important factor in this story. All that matters is that the campaign to eliminate the State of Israel and revoke UN Resolution 181, which warranted the establishment of a Jewish state in Israel. We need to be careful because this campaign is gaining momentum. Lastly, this past year, we worked the 100th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration in the Knesset. As many of you know, the declaration was contained in a letter dated the 2nd of November 1917 from the United Kingdom's Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour to Lord Walter Rothschild, a leader of the British Jewish community. This was a public statement issued by the British government during World War I, announcing support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people. We found that many people around the world wanted to delegitimize this document, call it into question. Once again, this was another form of anti-Semitism. People question and try to undermine our existence as the only Jewish and a democratic state in the land of Israel. The state of Israel is the heart and the soul of the Jewish people. If you attack Israel, you are attacking the Jewish people. We, the Jewish people and the state of Israel, have every right, historical, legal, and ethical, to be living in peace and security in our homeland. We have been connected to Israel for thousands of years. Any attempt to call into question our right to be in Israel, a form of antisemitism. The 100th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration is our moment to stand up with pride and spread the truth about the state of Israel. We are strong, we are moral, and we are in the land of Israel to stay forever. So, those are just a few examples of anti-Semitic activities that we discussed in my committee. I would like to focus in a bit on the BDS movement. The BDS movement is a modern anti-Semitism. It singles out only Israel, the only Jewish state. It focuses its efforts to boycott Israel, the heart of the Jewish people. We must be strong because BDS is real and needs to be fought. Many of you have probably been exposed to the claims that Israel is an apartheid state. As I mentioned before, many Europeans believe that Israel is apartheid. I believe that the use of the word apartheid with regard to Israel is insulting to South African historical and their justified struggle against it. For the sake of their heritage, they must be the first to stand and fight against it. Because if the meaning of apartheid is a description of modern day of Israel, then there is long time struggle. Then their long time struggle was for nothing, and their leader who fought against apartheid, Nelson Mandela, was in prison for no purpose. The word has nothing to do with the reality of Israel. There are no actual parallels as people of all phases, races, and ethnicities take part in all parts of public life in Israel. Israel is the only democratic Jewish state in the Middle East which gives equal rights to all the citizens. Arabs, Druze, Bedouin, Jewish, Christians, and Muslims. There are 15 Arab members of Knesset in the Israeli parliament, 4 Druze. One of them is a communication minister. Israel is the only country in the world which changes the immigrants to leaders of the country, which I can testify myself is an example as someone who born and grew up in Ethiopia, immigrated to Israel like any other Jewish people. and received equal opportunities in Israel in education. And now I am one of the lawmakers of the State of Israel. And there are many migrants who are becoming leaders of the country. I am proud to say that Israel is a light unto the nations. The Jewish tradition of Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, is an important response to the BDS mischaracterization. With our technologies, we are helping the African and Latin American people. Mashav, Israel's Agency for International Development Cooperation, concentrates on skill development and knowledge sharing programs and government-to-governmental cooperation. We send young Israeli volunteers to do grassroots community work in many underprivileged African and Latin American countries. Israeli innovation technologies have provided for millions of Africans access to light and water via Israeli solar and water technologies. The many ongoing global and local attacks on Israel often combine into a system of total misinformation. This complex propaganda war against Israel frequently targets the Jewish people as well. Many new aspects of this war are made possible by developments such as globalization. The internet has added a new, rapid means of transmitting prejudice, hate, and incitement. There are many new leaders worldwide who incite against Israel. These include a number of Western institutions and politicians, many media outlets, the United Nations, and associated organizations. Let me share with you of what we try to do in the government of Israel to combat anti-Semitism. We believe that a key to be successful in the integration and the cooperation between the different organizations and governmental offices that are working on this issue. There are many important organizations that are doing very effective work. But the sum is greater than all of its parts. And if we are better able to strategize and implement a plan all together as a government of Israel with communities and organizations around the world, we will be that much better off. There is enough anti-Semitism for all of us to be very busy. We need to coordinate and work together. Oftentimes, we host members of foreign governments and ask them to report on anti-Semitism in their country. This gives us an opportunity to ensure we have full commitment from other governmental bodies that they are not tolerating anti-Semitism. Not too long ago, we hosted a member of the leadership of the European Union who described a code of ethics adopted by the European Commission, which requires the social media companies to remove hate speech, racism, and incitement to violence from their platforms. There are a number of projects we support, especially those aimed to reduce anti-Semitic incitement on the internet. For example, we ran an advanced website for reporting and attacking anti-Semitic development online. We are developing educational programs to combat anti-Semitism, with an emphasis on content on the internet. We are training various parties that we call first line defense for when there are incitements online. We are educating governments and parliaments around the world about the issue of anti-Semitism and how they can deal with it. We host conferences around the world, bringing expertise and resources to various countries. We allow countries the ability to compare their legislation on Holocaust denial to their countries so that they can see if there are gaps that they need to work on. Despite the best efforts by pro-BDS organizations, heads of state from across the globe are flocking to Israel, actively pursuing an unprecedented deepening of their ties with Jerusalem. They are searching for Israelis' innovative technology and resources so they can better develop their economy and combat terrorism. Of course, this does not mean that Israel lacks challenges. Like every country around the world, Israel has its troubles in different issues. But it is still the only real democracy in the Middle East. As more countries face similar threats and challenges to Israel, they are beginning to see the world from Israel's perspective. I hope you can see that the government of Israel is committed to working with you side by side in dealing with the issue of anti-Semitism. We cannot let Jews, wherever they live in the world, to feel unsafe being Jewish. We must ensure that everyone's religion is respected, that people feel safe in their practice of religion. Looking to the future, I believe that we need to continue our work in three important ways. First is education, to ensure students are taught to love and respect all people despite the color of their skin, religious practices, or any other factor. Second, we need to make sure that no law or legislation prejudices against any minorities. Lastly, we have to ensure that those who do show prejudices or racism are equally brought to justice or quickly brought to justice. I hope that together the State of Israel and the European Union can continue to fight anti-Semitism. And so I ask you for your help. Please help us spread the truth about Israel. Please stand up to the lies and falsehoods that are out there. I am sure that together we will prevail, and the State of Israel will continue to be the light unto all the nations. Thank you. And I will be... Yes. I will be very happy to answer your questions.
Ansel?
Dr. Neguise, first of all, it's just such an honor to sit before you. I mentioned that my wife is Ethiopian Jewish, sends her heartfelt greetings and deepest respect from America. In your work around the world, what do you see as the greatest opportunities for Africans, both in Africa and in the diaspora, to partner with Israelis, our Ethiopian Israeli brothers in the larger Jewish world, to strengthen ties between Israel and African peoples worldwide, and also to pursue our common interests for our peoples?
Thank you. When I came to the Knesset almost 3.5 years ago now, the first thing that I took as a challenge with a vision that I see how it is very essential and vital to strengthen the relationship between African states and the State of Israel. This relationship is a mutual beneficial relationship. Both people, the people of Israel and the people of Africa, have a common values. We all both oppressed. We were both colonized. So it is now the time that when we have our freedoms and our own states, to work together, sharing experiences and knowledges, and developing our people. This is what I told to the African leaders. This is a vision that I have when I established the Special Caucus inaugurated by Prime Minister Netanyahu, which he took it very seriously, the issue of relationship with Israel and the African states. Africa has the natural resources, the manpower, fertile land, sunshine, water, and Israel has a modern technologies which has an experience of blooming the desert. Therefore, when these natural resources are meeting with Israeli innovation technologies in Africa, I think you can imagine what a change will be for the well-being of the people. Using the solar energy technology to give lights to the African villages. I grew up in Ethiopia. I grew up in a village. I was a student, high school student. I was reading, I didn't have electricity. So I have to use to study for my examination a paraffin. So there are many millions who are living in that life. And it is our opportunity to change their lives. And that is just go and see in Rwanda and other African countries, the change the Israeli technologies are doing, that solar energy is blooming the schools and hospitals electricity. So this is what we want to do, and this can do it. And I'm telling you is also, I'm very glad that the American government is also joining this initiative. And we have now Power for Africa project together, Israel, America, and Africa together to help the African people. So it's very essential, it is very important. Wherever we are all in the diaspora, we can also play a vital role for the success of this mission. And I'm happy the Prime Minister, within less than 2 years, visited Africa 3 times. So I was with him in East Africa, in West Africa, and at the UN when met with African leaders and display the Israeli technologies in all aspects, in medicine, agriculture, water, solar energy, tourism, in all aspects. So it is very important. It is our responsibility, wherever we are, to help to succeed this initiative.
Very quickly,
Just as a quick follow-up, do you see a role that the African diaspora in the Americas, specifically in the United States, may be able to play in this effort?
Yes, there is, because if I give you an example of my community in Israel, my community received the modern technology education in Israel. So most of them are very happy to work in Africa to use their experiences. Not be only the Ethiopian people, it's not a question of background, but any other people can go and work. And Africans who live in America also can play a vital role. I mean, every country has help. It's where he come from, that's also another contribution. But as helping Africa is we all can join together and work, and there is a place for their contribution.
Rafi?
Thank you very much for your lecture. Two concise questions, if I may. No doubt you serve as an example and a model for the Ethiopian community in Israel. Do you think that now, at this point of time, the Ethiopian community in Israel is fully integrated into society, and that you are out of many? How do you assess the integration of the Ethiopian society? And secondly, relates to guest workers. As you may know, there's many guest workers coming from Africa. How are we able to reconcile that kind of a challenge that seems to be for the Israeli government with guest workers?
Yeah, okay. First, I would like to answer about the Ethiopian Jewish community because it's different.
Of course.
Yeah. Regarding the Ethiopian Jewish community, you know, after thousands of years of disconnecting, and the community returned back to the land of Israel and joined our brothers and sisters of the Jewish people in our own state. Now, as a community came from traditional society to a modern technological society, there are many challenges. There are educational gap, there are economical gap, there are professional gap. We have many challenges. And the government is designed special programs in order to overcome all those challenges. Special mortgage for the Ethiopian Jewish community, special free academic educations for the Ethiopian Jewish community, even those who born in Israel, because education is a key factor to lift up the community and integrate to the society. So we have many challenges, and we have not yet overcome all the challenges. But we are marching in the right direction. We have a lot to do, but we are really, in a positive way, we are moving. We have now, comparing where we came from, and the time we are in Israel, we are struggling and doing our best to integrate to the society. You can see on the political system, we have 2 members of Knesset in the Knesset, in the parliament. We have 2 judges in the judicial system. We have officers in the army. We have officers in the police. We have officers in different government offices. So we have lawyers, doctors, but not many. But we are really working on this situation. We have 3,000 university graduate students, and more than 3,000 are now studying in the Israeli universities. So we are working hard to overcome all those problems. There are problems, but I am sure if we continue the way now we are doing, we will overcome the challenges.
Thank you. So we have 5 junior scholars. We call them the Wiesel King Fellows. And one of them is Anna, and she has a question.
Please.
Thank you very much for your lecture. I have 2 questions. The first question, according to what indicators does Israel measure the level of anti-Semitism in Jewish diaspora countries? And the second question, as far as you are the head of group of friendship between Israel and Rwanda, so probably from time to time you get the question, when will Israel acknowledge or recognize the Holocaust, the genocide in Rwanda? So what are the official reasons why Israel will not do that?
What was the first question?
According to what indicators does Israel measure the level of anti-Semitism in Jewish diaspora countries?
In?
Diaspora countries.
Oh, okay. Well, we have, first of all, we found it that the diaspora communities, the diaspora people are, the relationship with the State of Israel is a vital one, and it is a strategical asset. So we work together, and because Israel, as a Jewish state, it has a responsibility of helping and developing and strengthening Jewish community around the world. Because Israel is called the Jewish state. So any Jew who is living in the United Kingdom or in America is belonging to the state of Israel. Therefore, we are working in that way. But we don't believe that anti-Semitism is only the Jewish problem. It is a problem of all humankind. It is a problem of humanity. So we all have to fight it together. Not only Jewish has to fight it. Now, the second question that...
I'm very sorry, but the question, Ukraine was recognized as one of the most anti-Semitic countries. So I'm interested in indicators. How did you measure that? Where from this information got?
Ukraine.
Yes.
Well, this is not the way that we are developing the situation, because Ukraine is, there are countries who are practiced anti-Semitism. And that doesn't mean that we cannot work with them. We have to, as I said, we have to teach them. We have to fight, we have to talk to them to fight it against anti-Semitism. We cannot run away from them. We have to work with them in order to overcome. You mean, first of all, no, I mean, there was anti-Semitism in Germany, in Poland, and like that. So does that mean that we have to disconnect with Poland or Germany? So the same thing also other countries. Now, regarding Rwanda, what you said, we have a good relationship with Rwanda, and Israel is helping technologically, as I said, to Rwandan people and to Rwandan government. Recognizing, I don't know if we have to go in that way, but the Prime Minister, when he was there, he visited the site, and we all are acknowledging that it was a disaster what happened in Rwanda. It is unacceptable to any human society.
Thank you. Irving?
Well, first of all, on behalf of all of my colleagues here, I want to say mazel tov. Mazel tov on your leadership, mazel tov on your personal achievements, and mazel tov on your contributions to Israel. I heard you say that everyone is flocking to Israel to benefit from our intelligence, our technology, from our security training, our health care. But I have to ask you, What are we getting in return? I have not heard you say what we're getting in return at the United Nations, when we consistently receive anti-Israel votes by the very countries that we're helping, the very countries that come to us. The European Union that continues to support the Iran nuclear deal, the offer to help South Africa to desalinate so that they can provide fresh water. Please share with us, what is Israel getting in return for all the benefits it's giving to everybody else?
First of all, that we believe that Israel, we believe that sharing what we have to other nations. That's our tradition. And therefore, Israel is doing sharing and helping other people, other nations. We hope that when we help other people also, they will help us. We have seen that it is not a condition. It is not a condition that we do. We have always, the interest is a mutual interest. Let me go to the direction that you mentioned, to the United Nations. There are countries, really, they helped us at the UN, the United Nations. The pattern of voting at the UN is gradually changing. As we have many friends, and they have also really either they can vote with us or the minimum they abstain, some of the country. But this is not, I said it clearly, that is not the condition that we help and sharing the technologies, because we believe that we have to do it. And we expect to receive also and respond, such as, for example, is supporting us in the United Nations international organizations. I can't say all the countries that we work with them, we have a relationship, are voting with us. But are they countries that they have changed their pattern of voting indeed? Yes. So we hope that we can proceed on this direction. So this is what we have. The other thing is, I think, is a mutual. I said it's a mutual beneficial. Is Israeli technologies are investing in Africa. It's also strengthening Israeli economy, not only African economy. It's also strengthening Israeli economy. And we have also a relationship people to people is a very important. Tourism is not only economical interest. Tourism is also knowing and recognizing of the cultures and the value of different nations, different people. So the relationship with people to people is very good. The people that come to visit Israel is very important. And how many people I met, they told me that, wow, this is my first time in Israel. When I hear from about Israel outside, it's different, but here, completely different. So what I say is, come and visit Israel. Come and see in Israel. So I think these are the beneficial situations, what I see it.
So we have about 10 minutes left, many questions. So Rami?
Dr. Avraham, thank you very much for this speech. I just want to ask you a very short question. And the answer be yes or no, saving to semester. There is a people until today claim they are combat in the field anti-Semitism. They are referring to Jews. I will not say Israeli, to Jewish people. but they refuse to recognize Israel as a state. They still describe it as occupying entity, Zionist entity. How you can, what's your comment on how you can describe this group?
Well, this is what I mean when I mentioned that people are questioning the existence of Israel as a Jewish state. I mean, we expect that our neighbors and others to recognize Israel as a Jewish national home in our historical homeland. So people, and that rejection, when the group, for example, let's take the Palestinians very clearly, our neighbors, that I don't believe there will be a real peace unless they change from rejectionism to recognition. Unless you don't have a mutual recognition, you will not have a real peace and a real negotiation. We have tried the Oslo, it failed, it didn't work, because it was not touched the root of the conflict. The root of the conflict is that, I believe that, this is my personal, what I mean, is that I don't think this is a territorial issue or land issue. I think it is an ideological issue. So if there is no recognition and recognizing Israel is the only Jewish national homeland in the land of Israel, it is very difficult. So if they are expressing, as you said, Israel is an entity or a Western project, so that is the source of the root of the conflict.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Sunni.
Thank you for your presentation and your presence tonight. It's very inspiring. My wife's family, they started off as Hebrew Israelites and they converted under Prince Asiel. And I was just curious to know about the status. They immigrated, I believe, 80s to Israel. And I just would like to know the status of that group, the Hebrew Israelites, as they're called, from initially, I think, from New York, they migrated to Chicago and then immigrated to Israel. I believe Prince Asiel passed maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, they are in, you were telling me the community in Dimona.
Yes.
Yes. Look, that is the issue which has been discussed on the Israeli religious establishment, which is responsible of recognizing who is Jewish question. And Israel has a law, which is called the Law of Return, that gives a right to all Jewish people to immigrate to Israel and received automatic citizenship. So anyone who is not fulfilling the criteria of the law is being seen in a different religion authority aspects. So I cannot answer to tell you that, but they are living in Israel. They received equal rights in Israel, and about the status of their religion status and all background is, I am not very much aware of it.
Giuseppe, and you.
First of all, thank you.
And we have 3 minutes left.
Okay, so I skip up the.
I will.
As a European, I was deeply touched by President Lippmann's remembering that non-Jewish lady defending his grandmother's mother from this pogrom. But I was thinking that in the last few years, many European governments and the European Union at large have not shown the same courage in defending their Jewish citizens and the very state of Israel, in the United Nations and in many other contexts. And in the last few years, Italy has been following the same path. So two questions. One, generally, what is Israel doing to better the relationship with these European states? And if you see that in Italy now there is a totally new government, and did you see any change for now in the attitude toward Israel? Thank you.
I have visited some of the ex-communist countries in Eastern Europe. I think you are referring to those.
Also Western, I mean.
You are the Western countries.
Like France and other countries who were supporting anti-Israelite positions at the United Nations, for instance.
Well, Israel always want to strengthen a relationship to many countries. You know, in politics and in diplomacy, you're not just offended and then you just cut the relationship immediately. So even though we're disappointed, the countries that we have friendship are voting against us, we still continuing our relationship with them and explaining the truth and explaining we believe that one day they will understand the Israeli position, our positions. As I said, many countries are now seeing the reality of the world in our perspective, whether it is in terrorism and other issues. So, and there are countries who changed their pattern of votes at the UN as a result of our continuing relationship. We are not give up easily. We have to continue our friendship even though they disappointed us. So this is our policy.
Thanks for that. The final question to me.
Thank you for your tikkun olam work, Mazel Tov and Shekoya. And the first question is that in your speech, you equalize anti-Israel and anti-Semitism. With a prejudice of minorities and 3, bring criminals to justice. Like for a country like Germany, who already, which already are very well built in the following 3 approaches, and still Jews in Germany have a lot of angst to have kippah on the street. And so far as I know, as a lecturer here told me, if he is visiting Germany, Berlin, the Israeli embassy will warn him not to wear kippah. So mainly the government now is warning the Israelis, warning the Jewish people not wearing kippah in those countries. We already have done so many things in the 3 aspects. So what would Israeli government do concerning those special countries?
For the first question you said is anyone who attacks Israel is attacking also the Jewish people, because Israel and the Jewish people are the same. I don't see the difference, because Israel is the heart and the soul of every Jew. And then I told you that, so in order, Israel is the only Jewish homeland for the Jewish people. So attacking Israel, and they said we don't attack the Jewish people, it is just a false. So I don't see the difference. The second thing, your question, what you said is that, we are against any any group that they must be prevented practicing their religion and use their way of practicing their religion. I mean, there was a kind of proposals to have a law in Europe forbidding circumcision, for example, and I said, so we talked with those governments that, and people who are practicing anti-Semitism, we are talking with those government people, and the parliament is, in my committee in the Knesset, they work member of parliament is from the British Parliament, from the French Parliament, from the European Union, and we discuss how we can fight anti-Semitism. So we want that Jewish should feel free of wearing kippah and practicing their religion. So we have to work.
So I just want to say, as the organizer of this event, as a Jewish guy and as a person who made Aliyah in the 1990s, we're very fortunate to have a leader at the level that you are. We need leaders like you. We're fortunate to have leaders like you, and you really, it's really an honor that you came here, and thank you so much. So,
Thank you.